Welcome back to Kaely Daily. Today's question is pushing a baby like pooping?
This is Kaely Daily, the bi-weekly podcast about all things doula tips and tits, where we answer one question about pregnancy, labor, postpartum, or lactation in order to have your journey in this parenting world be just a little bit more informed and filled with consent.
Hello and welcome back to Kaely Daily. I am Kaely Harrod, your host, doula, childbirth educator, etc. And today's episode is starting a few episodes worth of pushing information. So today's is one of the questions that I get asked a lot, I would say from most of my students and clients. And that is pushing a baby like pooping? So that's what we're diving into. We're talking poop today, which is just loads of fun. So my short answer to this is kind of. Because you know how I do these. So yes and no. On the one hand, pooping ideally would not involve pushing, right? When your bowels are healthy and you are having poops that are not hard, then your ideal is to sit on the toilet and be able to relax your pelvic floor, and then your body should do the work of pooping, right? Same with peeing. You shouldn't push, you shouldn't have to force anything, etc. So that's the first thing. However, if you are an adult, you have probably at some point in your life experienced constipation. If you have experienced constipation, you probably have also experienced the feeling of bearing down or pushing when you poop. So in that sense, pushing a baby is similar to that sort of function of pushing the poop. Now, a few things to think about here. One is what muscles in your body are doing this work, right? I think we often focus a lot on the pelvic floor, and an upcoming episode will be all about that with my dear friend who is a pelvic floor physical therapist. But we focus on the pelvic floor needing to be really strong, but actually the pelvic floor needs to be really supple. It needs to be really able to relax, right? And so with pushing, what I want you to think about is that your uterus is doing this awesome work of pushing down the baby. And then you're joining in with your like core muscles, pushing with your diaphragm some, like all of that is helping, right? But your actual pelvic floor just kind of has to move out of the way. And so when you're pushing, it's usually your pelvic floor relaxes best in similar scenarios to pooping. So it's super productive, for instance, to push a baby sitting on the toilet. This is also why like being upright is really good, like squatting or on hands and knees, both excellent positions for giving birth to a baby. A birth stool is great because it also provides that like same amount of support like externally, right? So the edges of your body can be sitting on it, where the middle, where the pelvic floor is, does not have the same kind of tension and force up against it. So there's space for it to relax, to move out of the way, to let the baby through. So so that's how it is and is not similar. It is, however, I think helpful to think about the logistics of having a bowel movement or pooping in terms of positioning of your body, okay? So think about like if you're sitting on the toilet, for instance, and you stand up, right? You like tighten your leg muscles, tighten your glutes. That's going to be counterproductive to the process of pooping, right? But oftentimes in pushing, especially in the US, where we do lots of pushing in beds on people's backs still, which is not a great position. I will talk about that in a future episode. But it's not a great position to be on your back in the bed. However, if you are on the bed and your legs are up in the air, it's really easy to push force into your legs. And that kind of closes off your pelvic floor. And it's very similar to the motion of standing up if you were sitting on a toilet. But that would be like obvious, right? Like if you're sitting on the toilet, like I'm going to have a poop. And then you're like, you know what? Well, you know what would be helpful right now is to stand up. You know that's not helpful, right? You already have pooped enough in your life to realize that that is going to be, in fact, incredibly unhelpful. And so in pushing, it's the same kind of thing that you want those legs and pelvic floor like all just really relaxed because it doesn't need to help with that, right? Like it's not a necessary part of that process. I really love positions where your feet are up against something. So like standing, squatting, if you're lying down, having your feet on something so you can feel if you're pushing in your legs, and then stop doing it because it's not helpful. But also, honestly, pushing on the toilet is wildly effective, very, very effective, because your pelvic floor is like, oh, we know what to do here, right? Like we can just sit down and relax because this is our safe place, right? That's how you've trained your body. So I mean, I'm not against, a well-guided toilet baby if that's a necessary and important thing, or helpful thing. I do think it is a wonderful position. But you want a provider who can, in fact, catch your baby and not have them just go into the toilet. So that's an important factor in that. So that's today's question. I do want to remind you that I have a brand new, excuse my alarm, I have a brand new freebie. So it is a free guide that is all about the 6 sources of oxytocin that you need. So I will put a link to that in the show notes. It is something that you should start planning ahead of birth, ideally. So this is a birth preparation kind of free guide, brand spanking new. I just put it out last week. And keep an eye out in the next couple episodes for some more pushing information. So that's kind of going to be our focus for the next handful of episodes. And so you're going to learn all the fun things about pushing in the next coming episodes. As always, this is not medical advice. I am not, in fact, your medical provider. And so this is for entertainment and education. Please talk to your own medical provider about your medical scenario. All right. In the meantime, until I see you again, I wish you consent-filled, lovely births.
Edited and produced by Kaely, Harrod, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And our amazing music is credited in the show notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, have wonderful and consent-filled births.